In this video we're going to have a look at how we insert data modules into the BookBuild file. You may remember from earlier videos that we're talking about preliminary data modules, a content data module, a multi-data module element, and a PMEntry file element, and then we'll be initializing the book. Most of the preliminary data modules are empty ones, descriptive, and they can be HTML or XML, and mix them if you wish. And they're used by the BookBuild to contain generated data. They can also be, may also handle authored information, for example, like the preface to the book or something like that. But of course, in S1000D, they do have some pre-generated information, like list of data modules and list of highlights. The only thing I would say about those is that if you generated them beforehand, they may not be up to date. Whereas if you allow BookBuild to generate these particular files, then you'll know that they'll be up to date because they'll be generated when the book is built. We're now going to look at how we insert some data modules. What we're going to do now is to insert a data module into the preliminary area, really just to show the mechanism, and it's the same mechanism which is used on inserting all of the data module files. So you can see here that we've got highlighted the list of effective pages, and what we're going to do is to insert a file so that that list of effective data modules or list of effective pages can be put in there. So I'm going to delete that file reference, go for another one, and what I'm going to do now is to scroll down here to find I've got a one that I've called list of effective pages. Click on that, and we'll select that, and it gets inserted. So you can see list of effective pages. Now there are some options on this. What type is it? List of effective pages. There are 2 or 3 types here. List of effective pages, list of effective chapters. That's what we've done there. Do you want it to be included in the book? Some people don't want it. Let's just say no. So we just click on that and say no. The default is yes. The data module code, that will be picked up later on and for latest amendment. We're not interested in that. So that's that one there. What I want to do now is to insert one that we've already prepared, so that we can actually have something like a preface in there. So I've got it selected there, but I'll select a head of the list of effective pages and insert a data module file. We're then asked to pick a file reference. So we go, and I have a file called preface, so we will use that. Preface, there we are. Select it, and it's in there. So that's just showing you how we can insert 1 or 2 of the various areas, the files that we can actually have, which are functions of predetermined or pre-filled data modules. So what about the data modules that are located in the content area of the publication? These are ones that have been authored as part of the project. Now, must bear in mind that BookBuild doesn't change these data modules in any way, so they're perfectly safe being handled by here. It's preferable when you start to have a list of the order in which the data module should appear. That means that later on you won't have to play around with shifting stuff around. Not that that's too much of a problem, because in the structure view you can drag and drop these. Now we move to the content area, and we're going to see about inserting a data module into the content area. So you can see in the structure view at the right hand side there, we have the content information with a little square underneath there. That means that that arm of the structure is not complete. So by clicking in that bit there, what we're going to do is to insert a data module file. And we've already seen this before when we're dealing with the preliminary material. But if I double click on that, we get a file in there, and we'll just pick any one of them. Any of here will do. That one there. Select it, and it's in there. But what you will notice is that it's automatically numbered itself as chapter 1. So that's quite important, that really. For the main part, the chapter numbering is maintained in that left-hand window. Now let's just have a quick recap on MultiDM chapters. What this does is it allows you to have several data modules included in one chapter. Now, what you can arrange for them to be so everything is carried on in one stream. So it looks as though they were always written in that way. There are limitations. You can only have descriptive and procedural data modules combined in a single MultiDM chapter. But that's not, generally speaking, a limitation, because when you consider how things are put together, you're likely to have a series of, say, schedules or a series of procedural data modules in one chapter. You're not likely to have an IPD or schedule trying to combine those in one. The way that's handled, of course, is to have them as separate data modules in a PMEntry, so that in fact it then looks as though they're part of a chapter. There is no limit to the number of multi-data module elements in a book, and there's no limit either to the number of data modules in a MultiDM chapter. So let's see what this means in real life. There's the data module file that I inserted previously. So what I'm going to do now is to insert a MultiDM chapter at that point. Straightforward enough, just accept that. That's all the various items that are there. You can see there's some red bits there, so we need to look at those in a few minutes. So we need to put a chapter title in, so we'll call this I don't know, general information. And at this point then we need to insert the data module files. So let's do that. File reference, I'm just going to pick any one there and select another one, just a couple. So what we now have is let's drag that down a bit so we can see what's going on. So what we've got then is a MultiDM chapter, and I've just put 2 data modules in there. If we look here in the left-hand side now, the MultiDM chapter is chapter 2, and because they are included in it, they are chapter 2 as well, because that's the whole data module. So we need to look then at what attributes we need to set. Data module title, what are we going to have? Well, let's just, what part of the data module title? Let's say we're going to have the info name displayed. The title alignment, let's have it on the left. Do we want to show the data module heading? I say probably no to that. That's the bit which says descriptive or procedural. Show the data module code. Now I'm going to set this to no, but there is a case here for when we're working with drafts to have that set to yes, because then at the beginning of each data module in a MultiDM chapter you'll get the data module code. That makes finding the actual data module that's been commented on a lot simpler. What I'm going to do now is to have a look at inserting a PMEntry file. And as part of this we're going to include a title, and we're going to also include a table of contents. So here we are again. We're actually within the file that we were at before, the BookBuild file. Let's tidy it up so that we can actually see what's happening, get rid of those attributes so that it makes it a lot smaller. So what we've got here then, drag that down a little bit. Alright, change that to the elements view. Drag that down a bit. And what I'm going to do is to do something that FrameMaker is very good at, is to actually incorporate all of these in a PMEntry. So I'm going to click immediately ahead of the first data module file, and I'm going to include a PMEntry at this point. The PMEntry will require a title, so what we're going to call this is description. And you'll notice that because it's come in front of the previous chapter, it's got 0 on it. So what we're going to do is to actually add a file reference, because then what that will do will be to be used by BookBuild to put the table of contents for that chapter on it. So I tend to give PMEntry bits a fairly straightforward, call it something like that, and there we have that in there now. Now what I'm going to do then is to drag that item in there and that item in there. So what we've got now then is a book which has a PMEntry at that point, and there's a separate chapter there, and there's a separate chapter there. Now at the moment it's just shown as 1, 2, 3, and that will sort itself out when we do an initialization and a build. Now the initialization can actually be carried out either on its own, and that's preferable when you have a new book, because if there are any errors in it, then it'll flag it and you don't have to go through the book building process, or as part of the book building actual process itself. What it does is it extracts the data module code of each data module, the issue number and date, and often it's good to carry out this on its own in a new book, because when you're extracting the information about each data module, it's then fairly easy to work out how the data module should be reordered to make a coherent story. So we're going to carry out the initialization process, and we do that using the Eclipse BookBuild menu option. If I now click on that, you can see that it gives me the BookBuild menu, and there's the initialized new component. So if we click on that now, it'll start the initialization process. And you'll see what we get immediately is a log console, and this tells me that in fact there's a file missing. Yes, we'll correct that and we'll do the initialization again. Now, as part of the initialization process, you can see that it's actually extracted the tech name and info name for all of the data modules, and it's also, if we look, I don't know whether you can see here, it doesn't show it on there, we have to have an extra plugin to enable us to see it. There are a number of hidden attributes that actually show us things like the issue number and information like that. So that is how the initialization is undertaken, and at that point you've got a book which is ready for building, so that you can get your output. That's the end of this short video on inserting basic items into the BookBuild file. Single data modules, multiple DM chapters, and PM entries.